I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure if this time we can win.
So JP.
Hey Ron.
Hey. Question for you.
Yes.
How many times have you watched Star Wars? Guesstimate.
Guesstimate. Like the entire, all 6 of them, or the first 3?
First 3.
First 3, I'm gonna say, 50 times, maybe.
How many times have you watched them drunk?
Weirdly less times, I think.
Yeah.
I probably like 3. Weirdly.
I bring this up because I was rewatching Phantom Menace the other night.
Yeah.
Watching it for a particular scene, and never made it to it because I passed out.
Yeah.
Passed out drunk.
If there's one to watch a little drunk, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because it's a story that you can still follow.
Yeah.
Like, unlike Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are a little harder to follow, I feel like, when you're like all like, tongue
Sure.
talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But Phantom Menace you can follow and have a good time with.
Well, I was having a drinking contest, and every time Jar Jar said "Misa," I drank.
Yusa. Yeah. But that's that brings us to tonight's topic, Ron, which is
drinking in Star Wars.
Drinking in Star Wars.
No, it actually brings us to. I was rewatching The Phantom Menace because of a letter that we received.
Oh,
email
that's
that
right. We actually listener feedback.
That's right.
Yeah.
First of all,
wait a second.
Hold on
Jesus
a second.
Christ. All right.
Already a minute and a half into the show, we're off track.
What is this, Ron?
We are Delusions of Granular. I am Ron.
I am JP.
And we are a podcast that talks about Star Wars every week.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us at delusionsofgranular.com. All of our episodes are on there to download, listen to, what have you.
Do what you will with them. Or say hi to us on Facebook at facebook.com/SWDog.
That's
or,
right.
hey, tweet at us, retweet us, tweet to your friends about us at SWDog77.
Or give us a call. That hotline is 651-337-9364 or 651-33-SWDog.
Yeah, and the listener we're about to mention pointed out that this is actually long distance for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
Is there I don't know how to get a toll-free number.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, man.
We weren't expecting long-distance calls.
And it's a Google Voice thing, so call us collect and see what happens.
Yeah, just screw the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you did email us, and we always appreciate that. You emailed us at swdog77@gmail.com.
Yep. And someday you might leave us a review at iTunes.
That's right.
Or Stitcher.
Right. And if anything, you like us, friends who like Star Wars and podcasts, recommend us to them.
And if you don't have any friends, go out, make some friends.
That's right.
And then tell them about us, this podcast.
Because we're a podcast. We're not your friends.
Yeah. We've gotten to that point in our relationship now where it's 38 episodes in. We thought it'd be nice to tell you that as much enjoyment as you may or may not be getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as we enjoy you listening to us, get out of the house once in a while.
Yeah, we can't hug you. Legally. Not since the incident.
All right. So our friend who emailed us all the way from Canada.
That's right.
From
Calgary?
Calgary.
Yes.
Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah. What a vast nation Canada is.
Yeah.
Because I was looking it up and I was like, oh, how close is that to Kingston? Not close at all. 38 hours.
Right. Yeah. So, he left us a nice long email, and we appreciated it. And in that email, he was pointing out some granular aspects that he saw that we may not have picked up on.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. One of them was in The Phantom Menace, the scene I was trying desperately to get to, but fell asleep, was during the pod races. The Tusken Raiders are shooting at the pod racers, which I don't know why they're doing that.
They're just taking pot shots.
Yeah.
They seem to be the agents of chaos more than anything.
Yeah, I guess.
But
it seems like that was the only time in the Star Wars universe where the guns were actually like ballistic rifles instead of actual blasters.
Yeah, these aren't shooting like hard light or whatever. These are shooting some sort of, let's assume, pebbles. Yeah. I imagine that actually those are for the Star Trek listeners out there, that this is very similar to those guns that the people made in the movie, the one that William Shatner directed. Is that the one where they meet God? Do you remember that one?
No.
It's a hell of an episode, hell of a movie. Great film. But anyhow, they have people there who like make their own weapons and use like rocks and stuff.
Well, I would say this. As we here at Delusions of Granular, we always consider the toy line to be canon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would say so.
So when Return of the Jedi came out, the action figure, lovingly known as Prune Face, right?
Prune Face, yeah.
Prune Face.
Yes.
The Rebels, he was in one scene in the movie during the Rebel debriefing or briefing.
Not to be confused with the Dick Tracy villain.
Right. Well, maybe.
Yeah, that may be a crossover.
Anyway, that action figure came with a rifle, right? And the rifle had a strap, and you could kind of put it over the shoulder.
Nice.
And to me, that rifle always looked more like a human Earth weapon than anything out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, maybe this is like some type of pea shooter as well.
Yeah.
So, I would say good call from our email friend who pointed out that the Tusken Raiders are shooting with actual ballistic guns, but I would say the Prune Face also is probably shooting with ballistic guns too.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Another hint to that was that Prune Face had an eye patch. And he probably shot his eye out.
Sure, of course.
Right.
Yeah, and he carried that BB gun
That's
wherever
right.
he went from that day on. Yeah, I mean, it is a weird thing when you actually start thinking about the specifics of how these weapons work.
Yeah.
It's something that I've kind of never. It's one of those things where it's like sometimes things you don't look too close at because you don't want to break it or something.
Right.
And also I just don't know a lot about guns in general.
Sure.
But like, how does it work, Ron? How do you load a blaster?
Well,
I
imagine that it's a lot like video games where they're walking through the halls of the Death Star and they get power ups and there's ammo just lying about that they can constantly reload their weapon.
Yeah, there's some kind of like re-up, some kind of power cell thing.
Yeah.
They get like a little container of bandages and get stronger.
There's first aid kits all over the Death Star to patch themselves up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks again, Brian. That was an excellent email.
That's right.
And much appreciated.
That's right.
Yeah, hopefully these kind of open the floodgates.
Sure. So, what are we talking about tonight?
Yeah, we actually better just clear some room because this is a big one.
We've done our research tonight, so folks, pull up a chair and get ready for a long episode.
A trip to the universe of legend, or the EU, as we like to call it.
We're going back to the EU. Back to the EU. We haven't been to the EU since Shadows.
Where we're going, we don't need no canon.
But we're. I feel like the last time we went to the EU, we were talking about the commercialized version of the EU with Shadows.
Yeah.
Tonight we're gonna talk about Vector Prime.
Yeah, and this is the hardcore punk shit. This isn't new wave.
No,
this is straight up like in your face.
Yeah.
This isn't your mom and dad's Star Wars.
This is not,
EU.
Yeah.
All right?
This is.
You're not gonna find toys of these guys.
EU.
Yeah. Extremely expanded.
That would be XXEU.
Yeah. Yeah. Triple X.
Triple X.
Triple X Star Wars. Google that, and you'll find this. Actually,
don't do that. Don't ever do that. The Vector Prime, the first book in a series of books labeled as New Jedi Order.
Yeah, and like all Star Wars things, it runs in trilogy, right?
Well, sure, a trilogy if you want to count 19 books as a trilogy.
Yeah. Originally planned for 25 novels.
Yeah.
The story of the Yuzan
Vong.
Story of the Yuzan Vong invasion.
Yes.
These are the new additions to Star Wars Galaxy. They are from a different galaxy.
Yes.
They are not attached to the Force.
Right. Well, slow down there.
Well,
slow down. All right, slow down.
Just throwing it out there so everyone knows how different this story is. We're not dealing with
it's
Empire.
A different story,
we're not dealing with Rebels.
Yes. Well,
Jedi.
let's talk about it in real world terms. Okay. So the year is 1999. No, it's not Vietnam.
Sorry.
No, CCR, please.
Yeah. CCR is not needed here.
We need some... crap. I was trying to come up with
addiction.
Yeah.
It was 99. That's
99.
Cool
it's
anymore.
What's the band from...
I get knocked down.
No Chumbawamba, please.
Yeah, that's actually accurate. Yeah, 99. Chumbawamba.
Sad.
Is it sad?
It's sad.
I heard that song the other day, and I was like, because I hadn't heard it in years, kind of was like, found myself kind of like, at first I was like, oh God. And I was like kind of bobbing along with it. I was like, this was good stuff.
Chumbawamba, the voice of a generation.
That's right. So the millennial generation.
Once again,
you had Nirvana,
sad.
We had Chumbawamba.
Sad. So it came out in 1999, October of 1999. Okay. It is set 25 years after the Battle of Yavin. Okay, so the EU has really been established. The EU kind of started around 1991 with the Thrawn trilogy and Dark Empire. Countless books have already been written, chronologically in the Star Wars universe. Right?
Yeah, there's entire, at this point, sub-franchises practically.
Yeah, you got Tales of the Jabba's Palace, Tales of the Cantina. You got...
With the comics included, you have the Old Republic stuff.
Yeah.
It's not Old Republic at that time. It's Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. You got going way, way back in the past. Yeah. So...
We've got a lot of continuity built up.
Right. And a lot of fatigue. A lot of fatigue in the EU and the Star Wars novel universe, right?
And a new threat from another galaxy, Bob.
Not yet.
No. A new threat from George Lucas himself.
Oh, right.
The Phantom Menace is coming out this year.
That's right. Right. So books are kind of taking a little bit of a beating. It's like, I know I was getting tired of them, having read a lot of these books.
And now for the first time, it's like this shit might not even matter. Like, for the first time, the rubber has met the road.
Right.
And so they know they have to get a hook into the readers they have to keep them, right? Because before, it was the readers who were generally involved in the continuity and the people who were just Star Wars junkies, where it's like, I just need more Luke.
Yeah.
I need more Luke. I need more content.
Yeah.
And this is a good jumping off point for them.
Right. And there was, let's talk about that for a second. I was a Star Wars junkie, and I was one of those guys, I just need more Luke, right? I read a ton of EU novels where it was like, okay, Han and Leia are married, they have kids, right? The kids are constantly getting, A, kidnapped, right? In peril, right?
Oh, yes.
B, there's always a new weapon that will destroy the entire super weapon that will destroy the entire world.
This one's shaped like a pencil,
right? Yeah. They constantly are coming up with the same ideas. Not that, not criticizing the EU, but we were at a point where it was getting repetitive.
I think that's a fair criticism, though. Yeah, and one that's totally founded. A lot of people have said this. It's they started to Timothy Zahn kind of kicked the door in.
Yeah.
And then they kind of started setting into a familiar pattern.
Yes. Yeah. So this was kicked off by an author, R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah, famous for the Forgotten Realms books.
Yeah, fantasy books.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of fantasy books beyond Forgotten Realms as well. But beloved stuff, which is Forgotten Realms to me is kind of like a different EU. It's kind of an EU for the Tolkien fan.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like not truly, but sort of.
Sure. I mean, he's basically telling offshoots of fantasy tropes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, if you want to be bold, you could say kind of most fantasy is sort of the EU of Tolkien.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Not to offend anyone.
And prior to this, like most of the authors in the EU were kind of science fiction-y based.
I'd have to double check that.
I mean,
I do find a lot of overlap with the
I'm
fantasy
probably generalizing
sci-fi
a
guys.
lot, but I think there was a little bit of controversy when he wrote this book because it's a fantasy author writing for Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, he takes Star Wars in a little bit of a different direction.
Someday, maybe, years from now, when we're more well-read, we could maybe do an episode tracing that whole, like, fantasy sci-fi split. Because it's weird. Like, you think of the big four hard sci-fi, like Arthur C. Clarke, who's another big one like that? Larry Niven.
Okay.
Who's the one iRobot?
Isaac Asimov.
Isaac Asimov. Those dudes.
Yeah.
Those dudes, like, don't have fantasy novels.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, like, you get to, what do they call them? The new generation or the new class, whatever. The cool, like, the dudes who are like Moorcock, who's, like, doing drugs. He's in Hawkwind. You know, Roger Zelazny. These guys who are doing this kind of, like, crossover weird thing.
Speaking of,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever mentioned this on the show. Terry Pratchett?
Shit. Yeah, we should have covered that,
Yeah.
Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, Terry Pratchett. R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. We should, if we remember, we should put a little thing at the end, a little Terry Pratchett segment. Cause,
Yeah.
He
was. I feel like he kind of crossed over between the two.
I would say he's kind of that next generation that followed those, like, you know, those guys who were, you know, maybe doing drugs, maybe had mental issues, you know, like,
Sure.
who were kind of like doing this kind of very allegorical weird thing. And then you get down to, like, you know, Terry Pratchett, and then you get guys like, you know, Peter David, R.A. Salvatore, guys who are just kind of, I mean, like, I'm not saying, I'm trying to avoid, like, being like, these guys are hacks, like, but, like, because they're not, like, they're all, like, they're totally great authors, but they're just, it's not, like, it's not this hardline thing.
Sure.
You know, it's like there's a lot of overlap between, like, it's weird how much these guys go back and forth between fantasy on horses and stuff and then, like, science fiction adventure.
Right.
And I think, I guess the difference would be that a lot of these guys, like R.A. Salvatore and stuff, it's not so much that they're science fiction or fantasy, so much as that they're adventure, which makes them perfect for Star Wars.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Just to talk myself through that.
But I mean, he also brought a lot of new ideas to the Star Wars universe that was, like I was saying, Star Wars universe was getting a little bit stale. You know, the Empire was still a threat. Mm-hmm. You know, Vector Prime comes out. The Empire's not even in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Vector Prime, yeah.
Vector Prime, the Empire's not even a threat. They're not even a part of it, right?
And no, this is where we're going to get a little muddy, because I'm realizing more and more every day as we look more at the EU, I've retained almost no knowledge from books I read that weren't Young Jedi Knight series.
Right, and I retained bits and pieces in none of the Young Jedi Knight series.
I guess
there was a Wookiee involved somewhere.
Yeah, there totally was, yeah.
That goes for anything in Star Wars.
Yeah. But he had a sweet lightsaber. Carved from a tusk of Rancor, I think. I might have made that up.
Oh. But maybe he didn't.
Yeah, maybe,
that's
that's
the beauty of the EU.
Yeah. EU, your fanfic is almost as valid.
All right, so let's talk about what he was introducing into the Star Wars universe that was so controversial.
Yes. Well, okay, you start us.
So the enemy is from a different galaxy.
Yeah, and this is kind of an interesting thing here is that kind of ties in with, like, This is what's going on in Star Trek with DS9.
Yes.
You know, it's also going on in Babylon 5.
Okay.
It's something in the air. Like, in terms of, like, we're now going to have to deal with this other thing.
Other thing that...
we don't know anything about.
Yeah, it's a... like,
I keep trying to think of, like, geopolitical stuff, like, in America that was, like, making this a hot button issue.
I have a technical question here that bothers me. Okay? What's bigger, a galaxy or a universe?
A system.
That's not true.
I just made that up. A galaxy or a universe?
Yeah.
The galaxy is smaller than the universe. The universe is everything.
Okay.
Multiple galaxies live within the universe.
Like the galaxy, like the Milky Way, where we live, that's a galaxy, right?
Yeah.
That's it, right? Like that's like
I guess so.
the definition of a galaxy.
Well, it's a solar system. I don't know if that's actually a galaxy.
Oh. Okay.
See, yeah, I mean, like, I learned
So there may
science
be
from science fiction,
multiple
Ron. I
solars.
don't know.
There might-
Like,
I like how we're like discussing somewhat science fiction,
Yeah.
somewhat. I don't know. I feel like those terms get mixed up sometimes.
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't worry about it when I'm reading Star Wars books.
No, but one of my favorite books is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, well, how big is, like, how big are they hitchhiking?
If only we had some kind of tool that could tell us how big these words are.
I don't think. Maybe there is a clear definition, folks. If you know of a clear definition of galaxy and universe, which is bigger and which.
So then we're going to get inundated with emails, and they're all going to be, let me Google that for you links.
Let me just say right now, if we get that, fuck you, fans.
We don't have fans, Ron. We have listeners.
Fuck you, JP.
This is me under several different emails.
So the thing...
We are actually... you actually bring up a very valid point, though, because it is starting to change the nature of Star Wars. Because this was never a concern before.
Right.
Like, you could use system, planet, anything interchangeably, but now we're getting to a point where it's like, there's a whole new galaxy, and it's like, whoa. How big is where we are right now?
Yeah, right.
Because I haven't seen much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen Tatooine a lot.
Saw the shit out of that Dooney planet, but what else is there?
So...
Because we haven't even seen Naboo at this point.
That's true. We hadn't.
Yeah.
So, but the whole thing is like this Yuzhan Vong is a new threat coming from a different galaxy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They'd never say universe as a different galaxy. Right? They're crossing from one galaxy to the next, and there's like a wall.
They make it seem like there's a barrier.
Yeah. Right? Because we should talk about the plot of the book a little bit.
We'll get there.
There's these scientists that are kind of monitoring. There's these scientists that are monitoring the wall between galaxies, looking for any type of activity. And these scientists, headed by a character named Danny Kui, a woman, a voluptuous blonde.
A voluptuous blonde named Danny?
Danny Queen, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Danny Kui is also her porn star name.
Sweet.
They noticed some activity, a meteorite, an asteroid or something, kind of breaking this barrier between the galaxies. So they go off to investigate. Now, one of her fellow scientists is actually one of the enemy threat, one of the enemies.
Okay.
In disguise.
Oh yeah, they talk about he's got like a face changer type thing going on.
Yeah, he puts on some type of living mask.
They always talk about how he's like, and he itched underneath his skin from the face changing device he wore. I did listen to the audiobook. I didn't actually read the book, so I actually have some narration voices in my head for this stuff.
Folks, if you don't know by now, 38 episodes into Delusions of Granular, JP's illiterate.
Totally can't read.
Yeah.
I'm a graphic designer, don't need to read. All more rips them to me. I just wanted to point this out real quick. Sorry. If people want to actually check this out, the audiobook is assumedly legally on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Assumedly, that's totally legal.
Yeah, sure.
It's only like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, it's a pretty short read.
I crunched this on a Sunday, and so if you want to stop and go listen to that and then come back and do a little post-game analysis.
That's right. So they're monitoring this barrier, and one of the scientists is an undercover enemy, the Yuuzhan Vong, who we've mentioned, and they're a new type of enemy to the Star Wars universe because their weapon is very they're very anti technology, and they're very much all of their weapons and technology is very organic based.
Yeah.
Right. So they have these insects that kind of chew through metal like it's butter. They are able to cause these molecular storms that just break down things. Like they're very anti-droid, and they kind of are offended by C-3PO at the beginning of this.
Can I just put a bug in you real quick?
Yeah.
What you just said. Bug things that chew through ships.
Yes.
Molecular storms that break down things. Mm-hmm. Did you think this when you were listening to this? It's like, boy, this sounds really friendly to the CGI 1999. Oh,
you think so?
Yeah. It's like that was the one thing CGI was really good at with big budget movies. Was
bugs.
Big celestial storms.
Well,
like Fantastic Four, the first one, and
sure.
Second one. I can't remember. Second one.
Yeah. Had the surfer in it.
Yeah, that's 2007, so I guess it's ways away.
Right, but I mean, what you're talking about is what you're saying is movies are dictating, or movie technology is dictating what people's imaginations are.
Well, I wasn't actually being that broad, but sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of felt a little bit like it was just a little... I mean, it's hard. I don't want to pigeonhole it because it is different than what we've seen before.
Sure.
But it also felt like, hey, George Lucas or whoever, this could be a good movie.
We could make this, sure.
You could make this.
Right.
This is real.
Right. And they did end up making... Well, I mean, they made Battlestar Galactica, the new one, which had living ships. They made this was prior to that, but Alien is very much kind of has a feel for this type of enemy.
Well, yeah, and especially once you start describing the ships.
Yeah.
The ships actually have the head harness or whatever you put on is a living thing.
Yes.
And then the rest of it rolls up your body and kind of covers you entirely in a slimy, gross thing. And then you're able to commune with the ship.
Right.
And that's
so what we're
works.
saying is basically, to sum this up...
also, don't forget, sorry, Ron, a tube goes down your throat.
Right.
A living tube.
So basically, Vector Prime is R.R. Geiger-esque creatures invading the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's...
Right? That's his name, R.R. Geiger?
It's H.R. Geiger.
H.R. Geiger.
Yeah. Giger.
Geiger.
Yeah, Giger Geiger.
Giger Geiger.
My Giger counter's broken. Well, here, and this is just another one of those weird things about the EU. Is there's a lot of weird bodily things that happen in the EU. You ever noticed that? There's that weird.
There's a weird scene where Jason Solo, the son of Han Solo, is naked in a ship with a woman, Danny Quee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that's the weird thing about the Star Wars books is right down the Shadows of the Empire, with the Bill Cosby character.
Prince Caesar.
Who date rapes women and stuff.
That's right.
They all have this weird undertone. Also, do you notice, I don't know. I guess I was reading Amazon reviews just to get a feel for what other people who'd read it felt like, and there's a lot of good points that this is really kind of shooting for this isn't your dad's Star Wars. This is dark Star Wars.
Right.
Girls getting punched in the stomach and stuff, and
Right.
And it's just it's a little darker.
It's a little darker.
Yeah.
We haven't even...
Let's just dive into the plot.
We haven't even... Yeah. Well, okay.
Sorry.
Do we want to dive into plot, or do we want to dive into my initial reaction to this book?
Yeah, tie it to a personal thing, Ron.
Okay.
Let's put a...
So, I was 1999, some 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 16 years ago. I got.
Burned your draft card.
That's right. I was not going into the Gulf War. No way. No, that was.
I was busy that weekend.
That's right. I am up to my ears in EU books, reading everything that's coming out.
Isn't there something so satisfying about holding an armload of EU
shitty
soft covers?
Yeah.
Like,
I had hardcovers.
Oh.
I had hardcovers. Yeah.
I only had one.
First runs.
I only ever had one hardcover.
I had most of them were hardcovers.
Wow, Jesus. I only had Darksaber as a hardcover.
We'll get to Darksaber a little bit later.
Oh, very good.
So I'm reading all these. Pick up the latest one. Has a weird cover, not like the rest. The Star Wars logo is a little bit different. It's in an oval shape. The artwork on the cover is very much. It just looks more fantasy. It looks weird. It doesn't look like a Star Wars novel, right?
Yeah.
It's got a weird half face of Luke, half face of like a Skeletor type of character.
Very much so.
Looks very creepy and organic looking, and I pick it up. I read it, get about halfway through the book, and I get to one chapter, and I'm like, I'm done. I throw the book away. I never finish the book. I'm done. Something happens in the book that I thought was unforgivable. They kill off a main character.
Oh, okay. They killed off one of the Solo kids?
No. Oh. They kill off a original
OT
movie character. They kill off Chewbacca.
This is the book that killed Chewbacca. And this, I don't know if it was a slow news day or if it's just because Star Wars is in the air with Phantom Menace, but I remember this being on the news. Do you remember this?
No, because I was done. I walked away. This was I was...
You're I threw my fucking TV in the river.
That's right.
I lived as a street person for 2 years after this goddamn book.
I was that famous Marvel cover of Peter Parker walking away from the trash can.
But your trash can literally had everything you own in it.
That's right. I had my entire Star Wars collection just thrown in it. I walked away. This was the book that ended the EU for me.
Wow, man. And for you, wait. There's new movies coming out, so it wasn't your cutoff point.
It wasn't my cutoff point. I was just done with...
cut off now.
But I was done with the...
This is actually...
Phantom Menace was coming out.
Yeah.
I didn't need to read this shit anymore. I had real stuff.
Yeah, there was why am I doing this street shit when I can get the...
Right, you killed off a Wookiee. An innocent Wookiee. He never did anyone any harm. He may have pulled off an arm or two here or there, but
I remember
he was a good guy.
With friends about this around that period.
Yeah.
About Chewbacca being dead, and I remember just thinking it was somewhat cheap because I was like, well, if you're gonna go for blood, go for blood, kill one of the big three.
Sure. Right.
But
right.
There was still the hope that there might be 3 more movies in them.
Yeah. Right.
Which now I guess there are.
I guess maybe.
But, not that it would have mattered if they would have
2.5 movies.
Not that it would have mattered if they killed him in those books, though.
Well, that's the thing.
Because, those books are legend now.
Right. They were always legend.
Yeah, they were always legend.
They were always legend. Lucas never really...
Read them.
Well, let's talk about the death of Chewbacca, because R.A. Salvatore, who wrote the book, gets a lot of heat.
Yeah.
He's the man who killed Chewbacca. He's not responsible for killing Chewbacca. It was a decision.
That's like saying the Nazis aren't responsible for killing the Jews, man.
Well,
he's just taking orders. That's no
I don't know if you can make that comparison.
No, you're right. That's absolutely totally wrong and offensive. I apologize. But the point stands. Taking orders or not, he didn't have to take the job, man.
Right. But
I mean, that said, he did a great job. I thought that scene was
this
great.
was I'm so distraught with my emotion.
Oh God.
Let's just state how Chewbacca dies, because it's pretty, it's not cheap. It's pretty damn spectacular.
Dies like every Wookiee, on his knees, 2 in the back of the head, cops through a party.
So not.
Oh, sorry.
A moon crashes into a planet
Yeah.
Basically, it's like the moon of Earth crashing into Earth, and a Wookiee is there with both arms raised, trying to stop it.
No, not trying to stop it. He was raising his arms and like yelling in defiance. It was like I got really swept up in the scene in the audiobook because they really like build it up. They had the music behind it and everything.
And it's a big scene.
And they're like, when they looked back, there was a Wookiee standing at the center of it with his arms upraised and a defiant roar. They threw in the sound effect too.
Right.
It was very cheesy.
I think there may have been some artistic liberties in the audiobook because I think in the actual book proper, they couldn't actually
crying like a bitch. Like yes.
He was actually he fell asleep.
For the last moment, he first time ever speaks basic, and he's like, it's pretty sad.
Asshole.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, I think in the book, I don't think they even could see Chewbacca. Like that was the whole thing. Is like Anakin Solo, Han Solo's son, couldn't see Chewbacca, so he's like, "Well, I'm out of here. I gotta go. Like we gotta save Han, Chewie, and Anakin come across this planet, Cernapal.
Yeah, Cernapal.
Right? Yeah, Cernapal.
Whenever you throw a pronunciation questionably, I just reinforce it.
Cernapal. Cernpadal. They come across this planet with this. Basically, this moon is its orbit around the planet keeps decreasing. They land on the planet. They think everyone is chanting that a goddess is coming, and the goddess is basically the moon crashing into the planet.
Yeah, I didn't exactly follow why they ended up on the moon. We're kind of jumping into this plot description thing now.
Yeah.
So I had a few points earlier I want to bring up too, but I wasn't exactly sure why they were there. But they're alerted to the fact that this shit's going down with the moon because the mayor comes up to him, and the mayor's all crazy-eyed, and it's like, yeah, things aren't going real good. Look up there at that thing. And they're like, what is that? And one guy's like, Anakin's like, oh, is that the moon or whatever? And Han's like, no, that moon's too small. That's a smaller moon.
That's no moon.
Yeah, it was kind of almost a quote, but not quite.
Yeah.
Which was that was something they're trying to get away from with this book.
Right.
Trying to get away from all that.
Yeah, there was a lot of restraint. Yeah.
And the old mayor is like, that's our moon. It's getting here closer every minute. They're actually seeing it come closer to the world's going to crash into the world. Now, that mayor character, was it just me? This is 1999.
Yep.
Titanic.
Okay.
The film Titanic.
Yeah.
Didn't that feel a lot like the dude who, designed the ship or whatever, who's just staring at the
Oh,
picture?
sure, right.
And that was a big story. When Titanic happened, at least a lot of people I knew, a lot of adults I knew, were all reading up about Titanic, and there's Titanic specials everywhere. And remember, that was one of the most evocative stories.
Sure, I could see that. I could see that.
The guy who created the Titanic just stood there as it sank, being like, those poor people.
Sure, I could see that.
Mayor,
sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because this mayor has a crazy little thing.
He has a crazy little thing, yeah. So basically Han is, he's trying to get all these people off the planet before it, perishes.
And keep in mind, we're talking about evacuating a planet of people.
Yeah.
Which seems to me to be beyond a smuggler's scope.
Yeah,
getting my hidden
it's going to hit this one city directly, and there's 50,000 people in the city, and they're like, yeah, we can fit maybe
25 in the
25
Falcon.
the Falcon, we're good. Let's get out of here.
Oh, yeah, we got those.
The ships are taking off, and, Anakin senses that he can find the origin of what's bringing the magnetic pull of the moon in, so him and Chewie go and look for it, and that's
got to be nice when you're writing a Star Wars book to always have the Force be like,
yeah.
Fuck, how do I get him to the next thing? Oh, he senses. He senses some shit going down.
The Force, right. So, they find it, and, Chewbacca is, kind of sacrifices himself to so Anakin can escape,
Classic,
get into the Falcon.
Classic Star Trek 2, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Right.
He put, and there's even a point where Chewbacca could get away, but he goes back to save another person.
Right. So Chewbacca died a hero's death.
Motherfucking hero.
Right. Which I don't think at the time, I didn't want Chewbacca to die, and other people who were reading this are like, well, that's kind of stupid. Like a moon crashing into a planet, that's how you're going to kill someone? Like,
which is a weird image.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like the only thing I can think of that is similar.
Yeah.
Is in the comic book Cerebus. There's this whole cult that's like trying to ascend the moon and messing with that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I would like to believe this is somehow a Cerebus connection.
Sure. I mean, I think that there's a lot of concepts in this book that are, either inspired by or inspired other sci-fi works.
Well, you said it yourself. The Yuuzhan Vong, I mean, they're breaking through from another galaxy.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they're doing is so like having some kind of organic thing you put on your face that like puts an organic thing down your throat.
Yep.
That's like, I mean, that's alien.
That's it.
Period.
Yeah, right.
I feel like this really is something where it was like almost like a meta comment that like, hey, this bubble that is Star Wars and all the iconography and everything that's in there.
Right.
Like we're gonna now pull things from elsewhere into that universe.
Yeah. So I feel like we just need to say it outright, just so we got it covered since we are doing the episode on Vector Prime.
Yeah.
So basically, the plot is these Yuuzhan Vong from a different galaxy want to invade the galaxy where our Star Wars heroes live and destroy it.
Presumably for natural resources
Yeah,
or something?
we don't like.
It's kind of vague.
It's set up of a 9-novel series, so like motivations aren't 19. Sorry, motivations aren't clearly defined yet. But basically, these are bad guys. They want to destroy everything.
We know nothing about them,
and it's a force that has never been that the good guys have never encountered before. Right?
Though I believe we'll find out over subsequent novels. They've been amongst us for 4,000 years.
Right. Hidden agents within us.
You never know.
So that's the basic plot. They're basically trying to destroy everything.
Yep.
Right? They have no they're force adept, or inept.
No, they're
force
omissioned. Not omniscient. They're like an omission.
They don't.
Force.
They don't recognize the force.
Yeah, the force doesn't recognize them.
The force doesn't recognize them.
No. Actually, you're right. They clarified it because they said there's a point where Anakin or someone senses somebody. Maybe it was Jaina. It senses one of the Yuuzhan Vong. She's like, "It's like he's not present in the force." And it's like, "No, like he rejects it."
I'm so glad I didn't listen to the audiobook. I would have thrown it away like I threw it away the first time.
It was so good. I love the melodrama.
Yeah.
So, and it's the basic setup, though, right?
What's that?
That's the basic setup.
That's the basic setup.
So let's just get to the exciting stuff and talk about our characters.
Yeah, we should talk about our characters because we've mentioned a few of them already. And I think we need to go back and for our listeners who aren't as well versed in the EU as we are,
aren't willing to kill 4 hours on a Sunday,
aren't willing to spend basically their entire 20-something years reading Star Wars novels.
Yeah.
That there are established characters in the EU that have been established prior to this book. There's new characters that are introduced in this book. Let's just run down the established characters.
Okay. EU characters or?
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about where the heroes from the movies stand at this point, but also the reoccurring EU characters.
Well, if you know one EU character, it's probably Mara Jade.
Mara Jade, who's Nemesis, now married to Luke Skywalker.
Now, that Nemesis thing, that didn't last very long.
Well,
Right?
you know.
Okay.
You know.
And is...
Jedi mind tricks, you know.
Yeah, she appears to be dying of some mysterious disease.
Space AIDS. She's got space AIDS.
She has straight up space AIDS. That's right. It is pretty similar.
She's got some kind of death disease that's going to kill her.
Death disease.
Death disease. And
nobody can tell what it is.
But they're connecting it to the Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah, and they're
right.
keeping it kind of under wraps about like what's going on with her.
Yeah.
It almost seems like some kind of force-related disease, but there's only one other person who's had it, and they all they say about them is like, and they're rapidly dying.
Yeah.
So.
Not good. Yeah. So there's Mara Jade. So Han and Leia, if you don't know by now, they're married.
Yeah, they are. As I was reading this, I was like, these are kind of like the Bill and Hillary Clinton of the EU at this point.
Sure.
Like, let's come back to Han. I added a special note.
Yeah,
for him.
You got a lot on Han.
Yeah, I read a lot on that character.
But they have 3 kids. Jason and Jaina are their twin daughter and son.
Stars of the Young Jedi Knight series.
Correct. And then they have a younger son named Anakin Solo.
Mm-hmm. Who also had his own series. The very Young Jedi Knight series, whatever it was called.
It was like a coloring book or something.
It was like a little book, like
a
little kid's book.
Yeah.
But it was all... I always think that was such a cool era when, like, it was all figured out like that. You know, like, all one universe,
right,
but different levels
different
of
levels
reading.
of reading. Sure.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool thing.
And at this point, I mean, the twins are basically 20. Anakin is like 15 years old. Like, they're older now.
Yeah.
Right? And they're Force adept. You know, they're Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
You also have reoccurring characters like a Kip Duran, who was a Jedi apprentice under Luke Skywalker for a while prior to this.
He must have been one of the early ones, right?
Yeah.
Because I that was a name that stuck out to me right away. I was like, Kip Duran.
Yeah, I think he was in the Kevin J. Anderson books.
Oh, okay,
that
yeah.
introduced him.
And also Kip Duran's just one of those damn names. Like, that is a really good Star Wars name. Like, the EU is rife with bad Star Wars names.
Yeah.
But Kip Duran, like,
Kip Duran's a good name.
Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
Kip
Duran's a
Duran.
good
Those
one.
are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we know is there's a lot of Jedi that have been established prior to this book.
Yeah.
And they're kind of running amok in the galaxy.
This is a cool, logical problem for the stories to have. Yeah.
There's no Jedi Council that kind of reins them in.
Yeah.
So they're kind of, they're trying to do good, but they're doing good in a very cowboy way. So they're kind of wrecking havoc as they're doing good.
Well, there's this awesome thing where at one point Luke actually states what their mission statement is. And the mission statement is to both be like warriors of peace and explorers.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, that's the broadest mission statement ever. Like,
Right.
you can do anything.
Right.
Like,
also, it's not really true to the Jedi that we know from the prequels.
well, yeah, and it makes sense. Luke's pulling it out of his ass.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what are cool things? But look, it makes sense, though. So you have all these guys who are trained beyond, their hand. It's that kind of thing where like black belt ninjutsu, where it's like, my hands are actually lethal weapons. Like,
right.
These are like this level person, and they're just like releasing them on the street. Like, okay, now do good.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
like, so what they have is a bunch of these kind of, they're not rogue Jedi because they're, to what they believe is filling the mission, but they're like bumbling into things, stopping crime, like basically vigilantes.
Yeah, right.
And that's right at the beginning of the book. We deal with that with, what's that character's name, Ron? It's in the list there.
Worth Skitter.
Where Worth Skitter saves Princess Leia's ship from being attacked by some of this Yuuzhan Vong technology. And she gives him this big fucking reprimand. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, why would you dare save me? Our ship being destroyed was part of the plan. And it was just like, classic Return of the Jedi planning skills, Leia.
Yeah.
Like, way to go.
Calm down there, Hillary.
Okay, sorry, Ron. Go on. Keep going.
All right. Other names that you may recognize from prior EU novels, but we have a Nogri. Nogri basically are introduced in the Thrawn trilogy, and these were once enemies of Luke and Leia, but they're basically the bodyguards, well, in the EU, they were introduced as bodyguards beholden to Darth Vader. And once
I know nothing of these guys.
Once Leia explains that she's basically the daughter of Darth Vader, they are beholden to her. So they're kind of like big thug grunts.
That's another cool kind of thing about this point in the EU, where they're using a lot of the machinations of the Empire to govern. Like, they're flying TIE fighters.
They're flying TIE fighters. They're flying Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
We'll get to the whole Death Star thing because there's a theory that comes into play into this a little bit later.
Yeah.
A Bothan is also a part of this. Bothans, as if you've only watched the movies, we know that many Bothans died to bring us these Star Wars plans and Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Well, in the EU, we find out that the Bothans are just a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
Like, good. I'm glad they died because they're all assholes.
The Bothans are kind of
Political, conniving assholes.
They're kind of like the French, right? No?
Oh, okay. We have French listeners.
Oh, shit.
Not anymore.
Many Frenchmen died to bring us these
croissants.
Croissants. Yeah,
oh.
Thank you. Oh.
No.
Sorry.
He does.
Yeah.
But basically, the Empire has fallen, I guess. Eventually it falls.
I mean, it's 25 years after.
There is a new republic. There's
Yeah.
a new republic, and Borsk Fela is a Bothan who's basically the leader of the...
Borsk is my favorite soup.
Borsk. I like Borsk, yeah. He's the leader of the new republic, and he's kind of a political bureaucrat jerk.
Yeah, new boss, same as the old boss.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Who else do we have? I
want to come back to Han.
Yeah, well, obviously Han, Luke and Leia, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO.
Oh yeah, all your core.
They're all in there. Lando.
Both of us.
Lando. Well, Lando is a big part of this because, it's kind of become kind of a running thing in the EU that Lando always has the new scheme going on.
He's one of those guys that can't keep his hands off the shit.
Yeah,
he's got to keep being a little dirty.
If he's not doing one thing kind of shady, he's operating something else that's sort of shady.
Yeah.
The next time.
Yeah.
In the Thrawn trilogy, he was basically mining on this planet that, he had ships that could only basically mine on the dark side of the planet, because the sun was too hot for them to operate on the light side, so they were constantly traveling with the daylight.
Yeah.
And they had these shield ships that you could only get to the planet by basically having these kind of ships that looked like sideways umbrellas.
Yeah, that's a great description.
Right? And you could only get to the planet if you're protected by these shield ships.
Yep.
Right? And in this one, Lando is basically, he's mining off of these, they're twin planets. The Brilliant and Distrillion. Right?
Yeah.
And he's also running this game called Running the Belt. There's an asteroid belt.
And this asteroid belt's known as Lando's Folly.
Is it Lando's Folly or something else's folly?
Lando's Folly.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a joke thing. It's been a running joke in the EU, I believe. I think the reason it's called Lando's Folly is because it's this piece of land you either won or bought or something that's just filled with
right.
all these asteroids and shit, and so it's a real mess to get through. But he ultimately mines and finds gold there.
Yes.
So Lando's Folly.
Right. And this
Not
Running the
gold,
Belt
but
game that he has is basically smugglers are coming there to kind of play this game where they're flying through the asteroid belt in TIE fighters that have shields generated from a separate ship.
Mm-hmm.
And
much like their Return of the Jedi technology.
And they can basically bounce off of asteroids and the whole thing is like, how fast can you get through this belt of asteroids? The fastest time, just basically playing bumper cars with asteroids.
Yeah.
And prior to our heroes landing on this planet, Kip Duran has the record for getting through the asteroid belt the quickest.
Yeah, and the Solo kids really look up to Kip Duran because he's like a super Jedi to them.
Right, there's a whole scene where him and his squadron take off, and it's like they take off and there's music generated.
He's got this squadron. What are they called? The 12 and 2 or something?
Yeah, it's 12 and a quarter, 12 and...
I think it's something like 12 and 2.
Yeah.
And it's like... And they're this badass squadron of, fighters. And they actually mention in the book that, someday we hope to be as legendary as Rogue
Squadron. Yeah. And it's like a couple... Is it all Jedi that are in the squadron? Or I know it's him and his Padawan are basically...
I don't know if it's all Jedi or not, but I know it's referenced again later when Anakin's talking about his dream of making an all Jedi squadron.
Yeah. So, Jaina and Jason and Anakin want to run the belt, the game. They want to run the asteroid belt. And they do, and they, set all new records. And, basically they use their force ties to kind of get through it. Somehow they basically persuade Han and Chewie to do the same thing, right? And they run through it, but as they're running through it, the shield generator ship breaks down, and we realize that Han and Chewie are basically running the belt without shields. So anytime they crash into an asteroid,
they could die.
It's like instant death, right? Yeah. Which I thought was, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, you get to actually see Han and Chewie kind of interact with one another and how they're, they're skilled pilots, but they also basically, a lot of their skill is based on luck. Sure. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So they end up landing on an asteroid, and Luke has to go in there and save them. And I mean, it's. I thought it was a really well-written, fun couple of chapters, because basically you have some peril, there's some threat to our heroes. You have some fun because you have, everybody is worried about Han and Chewie as observers, and Han and Chewie are not worried at all. They're just bickering with one another.
And as they're I think of all the space faring scenes, where it's this ship does this and then the ship does that. I think this was my favorite.
Sure.
Because there was some other scenes that were a little more some of the battle scenes kind of I lost.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
One of the problems I've always had with the EU, and maybe I'm in the minority here because I know that the X-Wing Squadron books are very popular amongst the fans.
There is a contingent of serious X-Wing fans. You know what's weird, though? Huh. I was just thinking this today. You don't see very X-Wing cosplayers. A lot of stormtroopers.
Well, that helmet's hard to make.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I know there is a big Rogue Squadron fan base, but I hardly ever see full-on X-Wing pilots.
That's true.
So, just throwing it out there.
That's true.
Maybe it's a different fan base.
Maybe.
So you're talking about the...
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Reading about ship battles and stuff in
novels. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the big problems that I've always had with the EU is, obviously a big part of Star Wars is the dogfights in space.
Right. I mean, that's what a lot of it's based on.
Yeah, Lucas has always been inserting World War II footage into the movies just to, get the idea across of what's going on screen.
Yeah, the trouble is that's not very, it's
hard
very
to
visual.
read. It's hard to read.
Yeah, it's very visual.
It's freaking hard to read.
Hard
as
to
much
write.
as two things that are things I gloss over when I'm reading a Star Wars novel.
Yeah.
Names that have double vowels in them.
If a name has an apostrophe in it, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is traditionally Star Wars names. Let's throw an apostrophe in there. Borsk Fela.
Yeah.
right? Or let's throw in 2 U's or 2 A's. Or,
Luke.
how are we supposed to, like, if you're going to throw that in there, at least give us a pronunciation key.
Right.
Right?
It was funny, when I was talking about reading Amazon comments earlier, the top comment on a review for this book was, great book. Finally gave us a map of the Star Wars universe. And I think the other one was...
Timeline.
And a timeline.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like that's all they cared about.
It's a great book. 5 stars because we got the first 2 pages.
Yeah, they had a comment like, timeline's a little wonky, but better than anything we've seen so far.
Well, anyway, whenever I get to a name that I can't pronounce or a dogfight in these novels, I gloss over. Right?
Yeah.
I gloss over.
Yeah.
Like,
Same here.
Prior to this episode, you and I were practicing our pronunciation of these character names because I had never actually heard them said out loud before. Because in my head, there's that name. I know who they're talking about. Yep. Move on. I never say it out. I never say it in my head, let alone out loud.
Stop alone in your apartment, like Yuzon Vong.
Yeah, saying to my wife, "Hey, Yuzon Vong," and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
You know, baby.
Yeah. And the other thing I gloss over is the dogfights because I'm like, it's such a visual thing.
Well, here's the thing. I think they can be written very well.
Yes.
I've read a couple that are very well written.
Sure.
But for the most part, I feel like a lot of the writers get to the dogfight point and just write like fight,
right,
and then like parentheses, come back to this when we're done,
right,
and then they just move on.
Well,
because a lot of it feels kind of shoehorned and not necessarily organic to the story.
I think there's a simple solution to this. We live in the world is 2015, right? I know that I read my books on my iPad.
Yep.
Right? Kindle, Fire, whatever you are reading your books. Like, if you're reading,
some of us can't. Huh?
Yeah, JP. if we're reading,
if I were to read,
the day and age of the printed page is going away, sadly, but it's going away.
Well, you know, it's really a matter of like on the train. If you're reading a 600-page book, you might as well just read it on an iPad.
That's right.
So,
a lot of books nowadays, you can click on links that are embedded into the actual text, right?
It's the best.
So, solution to the dogfights, when the author gets to the scene where there's going to be a dogfight, just say, click to my YouTube page. Yeah. Go to the YouTube page. Actually, a video of the author reenacting the dogfight with Star Wars toys.
Yeah, just do it that way.
And then Luke comes in. That's all they want to do. They want to just play with their Star Wars toys.
And Han Solo comes out. Hey, Luke, I didn't need help.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. You're my friend. And then he gets in his ship.
Right. And then they blow up.
Now back to the book.
That's all I want to see.
That makes total sense.
I would love that.
Why not?
I would be so much more engaged with the story because reading 20 pages of a dogfight with Wedge and his buddies, I'm like, what are they doing?
Well, I always like when they try to make you feel for a character you never heard about before. And then Faz Terrain bravely was shot down in a ball of flame. But before he went, he engaged the rear thruster that took out 2 more ties. You know, like, it's just like, okay.
I don't know. Know.
Faz.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just stupid. But like, people, let us know. Like, do you enjoy like reading dogfights?
Well,
like,
you know what?
I don't have that capacity.
I've already put it in our docket that we are going to do something X-Wing Squadron related.
Yes.
In the future.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
All right.
But like, I know that it can work. It works for some people. I'm not going to write it off yet.
It works for a lot of people.
And you know what? To be honest, I feel like some of that was limitations of technology in the OT. You know what I mean? Like the place where they gave us all the cool ship stuff, they didn't really have great technology to show us the cool ship stuff. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. We're mentioned earlier that like, you know, people's imaginations were basically based on what special effects were, you know, happening in movies.
Yeah,
right?
maybe. Yeah.
reading this, having once read half of this book until I threw it out in the garbage because they killed off Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Having read this back in 1999, right?
Yeah.
The whole opening scene where Leia and Mara Jade and Jaina are in a ship and they're coming towards...
I'm sorry, Ron.
Yeah.
They're in...
The Jade Saber.
Thank you. Okay, continue. I love Mara Jade's ship's name.
Thank God Lando's ship isn't in it, because the Lady Luck.
Yeah, the Black Colt.
Racist.
You did Colt 45 commercials.
I did.
And the ship's black.
It isn't.
Oh.
I was able to visualize like a ship coming to two twin planets a lot easier because of the prequels. Like,
okay.
I felt like we all loved the OT.
Yeah.
But you never really got a sense of like a ship coming into orbit into a planet.
Yeah.
Right? But in the first scene, right?
Yes,
in the first scene of Phantom Menace, you can kind of get a feel of this is what a ship looks like when it's
entering the atmosphere. And
right?
Sure.
So I was like, oh, I'm able to visualize this in my head a little bit more because I've now seen it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Now, sorry, I know we're trying to get through the book here, but...
No, it's fine.
So in terms of my illiteracy in Star Wars books...
Yes.
I kind of made a vow at some point that I would not read any more Star Wars books.
Okay.
I made a vow, it was after reading Darksaber, where I was just like, these aren't worth my time.
Sure.
And then...
there is a thought out there that there's literature and then there's Star Wars literature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like there is all those Amazon reviews. They were like, if this was a regular book, it might get a 2. But a Star Wars book, it's a 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and I just got really fed up with everything, Now, I did break this rule and actually read the new canon, the first book. What was it?
New Dawn.
New Dawn.
Yeah.
I read the first book and I was immediately reminded, like, this is why I don't read these.
Sure.
They're quick reads.
They're quick reads, sure.
But I'm not a particularly quick reader, so it's always best to like just...
It's because you're illiterate.
Yeah, well, Ron, no. So this is all an intervention podcast for me to cope with my illiteracy.
Read this word.
Oh.
Sound it out.
Get draw.
No, that's Luke.
Okay, so back to the plot here.
Yes. Well, you were saying about books. You vowed not to...
oh, yeah, I vowed not to, and now I'm back on not reading them.
You're not reading them. You're doing the audiobooks.
I'm only doing the audiobooks. The closest book that came that, like, where I was like, oh, this might be a worthwhile read is the one you're going through now, Darth Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis, yes.
Like, Darth Plagueis might have been worthwhile to actually sit down and read.
Interesting.
But I think they're generally, though, probably good. Like, if you have an international flight, like a 14-hour flight or something, I think it would be a great paperback, to read some, like, Star Wars Shadowhunter, perhaps.
Right. All right. I'm the opposite of you. Like, I can't do an audiobook.
Oh.
I have a hard time with it. Like, I just...
See, for me, it's like...
I zone out, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't really pay attention to the last half hour of what I listened to.
Yeah, see, that happens to me too sometimes, but generally doesn't matter. Like,
that's how books are too. Like, I didn't really pay attention in that last paragraph. It doesn't really matter.
It's only really useful if you're doing like production work, where it's like you can kind of zone out.
Sure.
And then
sure.
It's like, you just plow through books.
Sure.
But anyhow, back to the book at hand.
Back to the book at hand.
So, where are we here? Chewie's dead.
Chewie's dead.
Oh, you know what? Han Solo.
I was going to say, Han Solo...
This is kind of Han's book, right?
It is. Well, it's interesting. Like...
It's a bit of a torch handoff.
You're not a Chewbacca fan. You don't find the importance of the character
I'm not anti
as great as I do.
Right. You have a closer connection with the character than I do.
Yeah.
I think of him kind of as a family dog.
I
think of him as
right.
I did
find that prior to the the ultimate chapter where he, bites it. That he was used much more than prior EU novels. Like, they really kind of, I felt like, as I was reading it, like, wow, they're knowing what I know, having read, half the book before.
Yeah.
That they really played up on, Chewbacca is, a vital part of the family.
Oh yeah, he's a capable guy.
Yeah, like
suddenly.
Suddenly he's having interactions, like with the gang that may have been implied prior to this, but now they're really being played up more.
Princess Leia's like, I've always found you so interesting.
So, I felt like they played up on that more so because they, foreshadowing he's going to die, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Moon dropped on him.
Drop a moon.
drop a moon.
Dropped a moon. So, as much as I didn't care for it when I first read it, and I threw away the book, the second time I read it for this episode,
yep,
I still had a hard time reading it, especially the eulogy in the last chapter. It was kind of hard for me to read, right?
We'll have to cover that later because I don't remember the eulogy.
The eulogy was basically Han remembering all the good times that he had with Chewbacca and that.
I think they cut that out of the audiobook.
They may have. It was the very last chapter of the
Interesting,
book.
because
it was a very heartfelt moment.
The book ended for me with him being like them being like the universe is a much darker place.
Yeah, no, this was. I mean, there was definitely a eulogy to Chewbacca at the end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as much as I hate to admit it, like the death of Chewbacca made a character stronger.
Yeah, because let me present to you the Han Solo you meet at the beginning of the book.
Made Han Solo stronger.
When you meet Han Solo, EU Han Solo is kind of like Return of the Jedi Han Solo, only more so. That is, he is a father at this point.
Neutered.
He's neutered. He's a sad dad. He seems to be coasting along laterally, cowed by his politically important wife. Who's
a Jedi.
Who's a Jedi also, I guess. His entire family is in a cult he doesn't believe in. His BFF dies, and suddenly he lets loose all his repressed resentment.
Right.
Suddenly Han's interesting again. The
Yes.
moment he starts giving shit to Anakin, when you think that he's going to be like, we did it, son, we lived.
Yeah.
And like, eternally good father.
Yeah.
He's like, you left him behind? You left Chewie behind? And like, almost ready to slug it.
Yeah, he basically blames his youngest son for the death of Chewbacca.
Blames a 15-year-old for the death of Chewbacca, hangs out with Princess Leia, and she's like, or whatever she is now. Not princess anymore, I guess.
Yeah, there's a whole theory about her name and whether she goes by Princess or not. But we'll just, for this episode, call her Princess Leia.
TFA's got a lot of work. Force Awakens has a lot to work.
Yeah, right.
To make that whole story work. But, he kind of goes with her, and he starts to cry a little bit, and he doesn't cry, and he turns his upsetness into anger, and he's going to be a super warrior, he's going to kill these Yuzong
Vong.
Yeah. And it's a whole thing. But suddenly I'm interested in what he's doing.
Yeah.
Whereas every other EU novel, I'm generally just like...
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's like, okay, this is... like, the most interesting Han ever gets... The sad part about the EU is... We talked about this a little bit on Dark Empire episode.
Yeah.
That the most interesting thing he gets is when he shows you something from his life.
Right.
Previous to the movies.
Right.
Where he's like... Oh, this is a place I used to shack up on.
Shag pad.
Yeah, this is my shag pad on Coruscant back in the day. And it's like, wow, you must have been really cool before you,
Yeah, before you're not cool. Right.
Yeah,
right.
But sacrificing Chewie basically makes him more interesting.
Yeah.
Because now he's like, he's got a little edge,
Right. I don't know, like...
It separates him from everyone.
Because I don't listen to audiobooks, I don't know exactly, like, if they say word for word what's written. Mm-hmm. But what's written is basically once Chewbacca's dead, like Han does not speak anymore in the book. He grunts. It's like Han says something, Han grunted. It's a very, very it hits Han deeply where he just shuts down.
Yeah, and he comes back online again at a certain point. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a point where all the children are in danger, and he kind of comes back online.
Yeah.
But, it definitely helps to break up that duo and make him a little more interesting. But,
it's you mentioned the kids being in peril.
Yes.
Right? It's not in our notes, but we did talk about this earlier as we were preparing for the show. Yeah, we actually prepare for this, folks.
Yeah.
That Luke is a little bit more of like they're Jedi. Let them do what they got to do. They're going to risk their lives.
Oh, straight up. He actually, there's a quote in here where he says, basically, Han Solo's all upset because...
He's upset because they're going to go off and fight in this, battle.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I lost Chewbacca. I can't let my kids do this. And Luke is like, they're Jedi. This is what they're born to do. Yeah, to die.
He literally tells him, he goes, get used to it.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then he goes on and digs it further, goes, get used to it, because in a few more years, you won't be able to keep up with them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and he's like, they're kids.
Yeah. And not only is it a weird, like, Star Wars is passing time.
Yeah.
But it's also like, Luke is finally, like, after all these years, like, kind of standing up to Han Solo.
Yeah.
Right? And just being like, telling him what it is. Like, look.
And he's also kind of in that asshole Jedi mode.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, feelings do not matter. Like, everything dies.
Yeah, it's a weird... Like, as we said, it's a Han Solo book. It's obviously a Chewbacca book because he dies. Right? Yeah. It's kind of not a Luke Skywalker book.
No.
Right? Luke's kind of sidelined in this.
Well, like, it's weird because Luke's got all these weird things where, like... So he has this relationship, right?
Yeah.
With Mara Jade. Yes. Now he's a Jedi, but he has I guess she's a Jedi, girlfriend.
Yes.
Wife. At this point.
Wife.
Who's dying of space AIDS. But like, he's got this emotional distance with her too, where he's like...
Yeah. She's got to fight this on her own.
He's
I can't
really
deal with
worried about her and stuff, but then at the same time he's like, well, she's an independent woman.
Yeah.
And like, this was... And it's weird because like, to me this was 1999's version of like... not equal right, like, like, of like being against sexism, being like, I'm not gonna ask her how she's doing or trying to take care of her.
Basically, what you're saying is Luke Skywalker is like the Ross on Friends of
yes
of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, Mara Jade's a lesbian. He married her.
I know something's wrong, but I don't want to bother.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it's weird. Like, it's this, so he does that, and he has that weird interaction with Han, which they play off well. They play it off like it's all kind of funny, and like Han smiles at the end and is like, crack some joke.
Yeah.
But it was just like this weird thing where I was suddenly like, I don't know how Han's dealing with this, because his only other friend who's not in this Jedi cult is dead.
Yeah.
And like, his wife busts out a lightsaber periodically. Like, they could all be manipulating his feelings.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This is very weird. All of his children are in it.
Right.
It's like imagine, Ron, if your wife and like children and best friend were all in Scientology. Well, when you're not.
Don't even bring up the Scientology. Let's. I want to point our attention to a link that I came across today that I've actually I have seen some of these prior to this. Mm-hmm. But this is basically 5 fan theories.
Oh yeah, I read that today.
That are actually make a lot of sense. Okay. Sure. And this is off of moviepilot.com. This was going around the internet today. One of them actually pertains to the Yuzhan Vong series, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. Mm-hmm. But so these are basically fan theories that they're not canon, just theories that people have about the canon that actually are kind of hold a lot of
they're
truth,
good,
right?
Yeah.
Right? So number 5, Chewbacca was a rebel all along. right? We know that Chewbacca fought with Yoda in the Clone Wars, right? Then he's hanging out with the non-believer, Han, who basically for himself the entire time. And, Chewbacca's like, no, I'm a rebel all the time. I'm just, like, working behind your back.
Yeah, like, basically just didn't tell Han, but, I mean, like, we see him in Revenge of the Sith. He meets Yoda.
Right. Number 4. Qui-Gon was secretly a Sith.
Yeah, I thought that was a funny one.
I think we touched on this before. Not that he's a Sith, but, like Qui-Gon is definitely a
rogue Jedi,
right? He doesn't stand with the beliefs of the Jedi Council.
He's a hippie anti-establishment.
Yeah. I want to skip over 3. We'll do that one last, right? But the Ewoks are darker than you think. Not really, if you really are paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've known
they want to eat everyone.
Yeah.
Right? They want to eat Han. They want to eat Luke.
They have this great gif of the Ewoks, like, with the flaming torches, like, where they have Han all bound up.
Yeah, like, they're going to eat everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they're cute and everything, but they'll eat you.
The helmets at the end has always been haunting to me.
Yeah, they've eaten already.
Yeah,
they've
what
eaten
happened?
flesh. They've eaten stormtrooper flesh.
Yeah.
Right? They're like your cat.
Yeah.
You die, he's going to eat you.
Yeah, they're cute and they're fun to play with, but...
yeah, they do goofy things, but they'll eat you.
They'll eat you. They're animals.
So Han Solo had a huge secret that he's a Jedi.
Right.
Han is a Jedi. This is a fan theory.
Or at the very least, very Force adept.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the reasons that this article is pointing out that Han actually might be a Force adept is because Han is he's a very successful smuggler.
Yep.
And pirate, right? And yet everything that we've seen him do in the original trilogy is stupid.
Yeah.
Right? He's just dumb, right? And okay, granted, he has a Wookiee bodyguard, that's out protecting him. But in most cases, what he does, the Wookiee cannot protect him. So there has to be some other guiding light that's kind of protecting, looking out for Han.
He chalks it up to luck. I mean, you talked about it in this very episode that goes through that astro field, like that everyone's, trying so hard to get through, and it's like just by luck.
Yeah, it's all luck.
Well, maybe it's because he's got some Force sensitivity.
Right.
Thank God that even the EU didn't have the balls to go there.
No, but, maybe canon does.
Yeah, maybe canon does. They zig with the other ones.
JJ, let's bring it on, Jim.
Yeah, I dare you.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to number 3 because that pertains to...
It's a big one.
What we're talking about tonight in particular. Emperor?
Sheev. You can call him Sheev.
Sheev.
We all know who Sheev is,
Palpatine.
right?
Yes, right.
Everyone knows Sheev?
Tarkin, the novel, brought it out. It's Sheev.
Sheev.
I would love it if it was just Steve.
I'd love it as Skeev. Skeev Palpatine, the evil Sith Emperor.
What's up, Steve? Steve. I like Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve. Steve Palpatine.
What's up, man? What's up, bro?
You guys just hanging? Yeah. So, anyhow. So, Palpatine built the Death Star for a reason.
Yeah.
Other than evil.
He's a hero.
Yeah, motherfucker's a hero.
He actually, being a very strong, force-sensitive person.
Yeah.
He foresaw that the Yuuzhan Vong were going to attack, and the only way to stop them was to create the Death Stars.
Yeah, because they have these organic planet-sized ships. Mm-hmm. That's kind of their Star Destroyer, right?
Right.
And so how are you going to kill a planet-sized ship? With a planet-killing fucking Death Star.
Right. So the theory is that Palpatine actually had the foresight to create these ships knowing that the Yuuzhan Vong was going to invade 25 years in the future.
And it's funny that he didn't tell anybody. He was just like, no.
No, I'm going to blow some
evil.
planets just to prove that technology works.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Strike against me, yeah, see? Yeah.
chopping his cigar.
He almost was, right? Like, I mean,
He was chewing scenery, that's for sure.
yeah.
But, as
Crazy
you
old
pointed
man.
out earlier, prior to us hitting the record button, that there are definitely some examples of this where a tyrant comes off as a tyrant.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
for
yeah.
the greater good.
Yeah, it's funny because we've talked so much about how much of the roots of Star Wars starts with Dune. And this actually ties into a theme that kind of shows up later in Dune. By the fourth book, it's really obvious. God Emperor of Dune. They call it the Golden Path, where, spoilers, Duke Leto II is basically, he's kind of keeping everyone in this sort of, I guess you could compare it to like Russia communist era times, where like everyone's kind of just having a shitty time. They're all living, but it's not like a great life. And the reason it comes out throughout the course of the novel is that like this is his, what he calls the golden path. This is the only way to, he's going to have to do this for 10,000 years to make sure that ultimately humanity doesn't extinguish itself.
Okay.
Like, otherwise, things are just going to get fucked. There's going to be wars. There's going to be bad shit, right?
Yeah.
So, basically, there's going to be 10,000 years of shitty, bland, gray stuff. And then everything's going to be cool.
Everything's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And so, like... So, and that's kind of... And that's... If you examine the whole series of Dune, like, going backwards, that's kind of there the whole time. This idea of predestiny versus, like, gratification, etc. So, it was kind of cool to see that this was, like... This is also one of those rare moments in the EU where I think the EU gets a bad rap for being not clever.
Sure.
For being very, like we said earlier, we made a joke, like fanficky. You know, where it's like, well, of course Han and Leia get married. Well, of course they have twins. Well, of course, a lot of stuff that it's almost like logic games.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I thought it was kind of cool to have them put this in the books, right? That's kind of zig when he zagged.
Well, this wasn't in the book. This was what just people came up with.
This isn't actually mentioned?
No, it's not in the book. You're giving the EU more credit than it deserves. The credit goes to the armchair quarterbacks like us.
Oh, hey, look at us. We're so smart. Look at all the books we read.
We came up with this.
Or listen to. I actually read the Dune books, by the way.
Well...
I'm something like defending my literacy.
I'm literate.
Had my wife
I do think that's a great theory. Like I do think it's a great theory, and
although it does make you question, it's like, well, then why was he such a dick on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi? Why couldn't he have been like, let's all calm down, let's be fucking cool, guys? Like, because I mean, we don't have to kill each other. This isn't about you. It's not about Alderaan.
Why are we fighting?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It holds up logically, but not entirely. You know what I mean? Or I guess you could say he's just a flawed guy.
Well,
I don't know.
I wanted to throw this out there.
Okay.
All right. So, George Lucas.
Yeah.
His original plans for Star Wars was he was going to make the first movie, A New Hope.
Yep.
Right? Then he was going to throw it to his director friends.
Yeah.
De Palma, Coppola,
sure.
Spielberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to throw it to them and be like, hey, look, I created this universe. Go have a good time in it, right?
Yeah.
Make some movies better than mine. He said that. Like, he's like,
Such bullshit. He could never have stood that.
Make some movies better than me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm going to come back and make the last one that's going to be better than all yours.
Mm.
I mean, that was his basically his mission statement that failed entirely.
Poor guy.
Right?
He said a lot of bold shit when he's young, huh?
Yeah, he talked out of his ass. But I mean, that's a fair, if you're a young ambitious guy. Like, yeah, this is my plans for the future. You know,
You've had some success.
Yeah, he's had some success. He's had fortune and fame thrust upon him. You know, like that's hey, let's have my friends do this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the events that played out did not work.
As covered in our Lucasverse Kirshner.
Yeah, as covered in many of our different podcasts.
I would refer people to the Melius episode and the
Melius episode. We
Lucas
cover some of
versus
this too.
Kirshner episode.
Sure. But what occurred to me was what I'm saying is Lucas created a universe that he wanted other people to play in.
Three films.
Great films. Prior to that, he created one film that he wanted other people to play in.
One great film.
He created one great film. That's all he really did in life.
American Graffiti.
That's right. Love it. Love it.
All my friends can play in my 1950s universe. But no, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right?
And then the EU happens.
Well, no. Prior to the EU happening, he tosses off Empire to Kirshner. Kirshner, causes him a lot of headaches.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. Right.
Something he feels a lot more proprietary.
He feels a little bit more proprietary to his baby. He concludes it with a movie where he can control everything, even though he's not the director.
Yep, he's got all those other business interests he has to look in on.
Right. Time moves on, and whether he wanted it to happen or not, other people took his story, his universe, his world that he created, and ran with it.
Oh yeah, many people. The Dark Horse Comics people, the Del Rey Books people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Numerous authors, numerous creators, numerous artists, what have you. They all went off in they did what he wanted, but they didn't do it in movie form.
George Lucas is a guy who supposedly communicates with movies. That's his thing.
He's very visual.
But
visual.
movies is that's how he talks about plots and everything.
Yeah.
This episode of the Clone Wars is like the Big Sleep meets this.
Yeah.
That's how people say he talks.
Yeah.
So movies are the only valid form for him.
It seems like because...
And B, the other key thing you're forgetting here is he said his friends.
Yeah. No, I'm not forgetting that.
Yeah,
I'm not forgetting that. I'm not forgetting that.
Salvatore is probably a great guy, but...
He's not Lucas's friend.
Every interview I read with these Star Wars writers,
they're
at the very
removed.
best, they've gotten to have a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best
Which
I've
is,
seen.
I mean, I'm not trying to get down on Lucas because I'm like, hey, look, if I have any kind of, huge success in my life, I'm going to share it with my friends, or I'm going to include them before I include a perfect stranger.
Of course.
But he didn't see the forest for the trees.
What do you mean?
There's other people out there that are creative that can take more Coppola and Spielberg. They didn't really give sure they liked what Lucas was doing, but that wasn't their thing.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Give it to the guys that it's their thing. Give it to
ultimately though he kind of does with the Clone Wars. I would say if you're going to try and compete,
that is the big turnaround, and that's the turnaround we've talked about in the past. Is the Clone Wars is where there was a shift in Lucas.
Kind of a strange, I would say, one of the backbones of this whole podcast is us kind of tracing this Lucas story.
Sure.
Which someday we'll do a couple episodes on.
Or every episode we do is on.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, there's always this moment in the episode where we cut away to, what was George thinking?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's a very valid point. And that in his arc, that's kind of the time where he learns to collaborate on that level.
Right.
Not collaborate in terms of you direct it, I'll write it, like he does with Spielberg.
Right.
Or, various, or you do it, I'll edit it, like he did it as a student with Melius.
Right.
But truly be these are my toys, all I can do is tell you how I feel they work. Now you go and play with them.
Right.
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 So,
I mean...
And ultimately, he learns the next step is, let go, and he sells to Disney.
Well, he is hanging out at comic book shops. I don't know how much he's let go.
I know, it is questionable.
Right? I mean, I asked that question in jest, but not really. Like, what is going through his head right now? Like, JJ is in charge, and like what is his reaction going to be when the Force Awakens comes out? You know, like, is he going to be like, hey? Is he going to be like, hey, Disney, I need to direct one now? You know, like, is he going to want to, like, I mean, essentially, he's still he's not retired, right? I mean, he made Strange Magic, produced it.
Still regret we didn't go see that. That was a mistake on our part.
No, we'll see it.
I know we'll see it, but I mean, like, the fact that we didn't go put it in the box office, I feel bad.
That we didn't stand in line and camp out for it.
Oh yeah,
we should have camped out for Strange Magic.
Try to get on the news.
We could have. We could have. That would have been awesome.
Two guys are seeing this movie. The thing is, my question is, could he go to Disney tomorrow and say, I want to direct a Star Wars movie?
That's what I'm asking.
Like, could he even get a spin-off?
Right, that's what I'm asking. Right?
I mean, he's on the outs.
Why is he on the outs? Because Strange Magic was not great?
I don't know. It's like, I think, in fan circles, the thing is, I've heard this conversation exactly happen. Yeah. In a comic store. The Indiana Jones 3 is playing, maybe. And, someone's like, oh, I like this one. And then someone else is like, oh, it's my least favorite. I think I joined in and was like, Temple of Doom's always been my favorite. Right. People are like, why? 3's got it all. And I was like, you're right. It's got too much. It's got young Indiana Jones. Sure. All in one day. He's got to explain all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Also,
who are you talking to? Because I've never heard people say 3 is the best.
Really?
Yeah,
a lot of people love 3, dude. Like, listeners out there, let us know.
I know who likes 3?
Who?
My mom.
Oh.
Because it's got it all. Like,
yeah, exactly.
To me, the
John
first...
Q. Public loves 3.
Right. The first one is the one. That's the one.
In my opinion, the first one's one of the greatest movies ever.
Yeah.
It's
they made
airtight.
those kids made, like, scene for scene and
you know what else I love about the first one, though? You know what else I love about the first one? Is that not only is it, like, write the book on, like, a perfect action movie, it also, like, totally defies most logic. Because if you take him out of the movie, you take Indiana Jones, the character, out of the movie...
He's not
It all happens the exact same way.
This was I know you don't watch the show, but this was a big a plot point on Big Bang Theory.
Oh,
like
fuck me.
Somebody
never mind. Let's erase this.
Yeah, somebody ruins all the main characters' love of
I never watched
Raiders because she points out that fact.
I watched Big Bang Theory once.
Yeah.
At a video store.
Yeah.
I was like, what else?
A video store? How old are you?
No, I'm like at a video store a year ago in Andersonville.
Andersonville? There's a video store in Andersonville?
There is, next to Cass
Andersonville is a neighborhood of Chicago, folks.
Yeah. So anyhow, I watched part of it and I was like, yeah, it's whatever. But because I just never saw it. My buddy is like, he's a hardcore like geek nerd dude, like big into like hard sci-fi stuff. Yeah. And like his family knows this. Yeah. And I guess his like mom and sister and whole family just love the show. Sure. And he was like, I said, yeah, they're always telling me I should watch it because it's just like me and my friends and stuff. And he's like, I watched it with them. It's just like, why don't they just call this show, Look at These Fucking Nerds? And that was priceless.
It's all that, sure. I'm not...
Anyhow, long story short.
Yeah, no.
It's a cool movie because it really defies a lot of conventions and creates new ones. It's an awesome movie. 2, I just like it. I just have a lot of stuff I like about it. It's a weird movie.
It's a weird movie.
It's got a lot of weird quotes I like to say a lot, like work and stuff. Where it's like, hey, Short Round, quit fooling around that kid.
Oh, you're talking about the second one?
Yeah, the second one.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the first one.
Oh, yeah, I endcapped that with how cool it was. But I like the second one.
You like the second one better?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I love the first one, but like rewatchability-wise, I watch the second one all the time.
Interesting.
Honestly, I find a movie when it's like too perfect, Like, it doesn't have that rewatchability for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Or maybe I just burned out with it.
Because I find, although I love the second one, I find that the first one has the rewatchability for me.
Well, the trouble is, God damn it, if you could only swap out the women who play the love interest.
Really? No, I don't have a problem with the love interest at all.
In the second one?
In either one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because, if there's one annoying thing about Temple of Doom, it's, what's her name? Spielberg's wife.
Oh, Kate Capshaw.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
She
didn't
like...
age well.
Well, who does?
Yeah.
Because there are just points with her it's a little grating. But I love everything else. I love Short Round, love Indy, I love the whole thing. Yeah. I love the mysticism of it.
I
love that it's not Nazis.
Oh, I love that. It's Nazis in the first one.
I like Nazis just as good as the next guy, but when you get to 3, it feels like, are these Nazis?
Well, it's like Captain America Nazis. They're like not really Nazis.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, are these Nazis like as interesting as the ones we had in the first one? Even like,
we are way off on a tangent here, but I just want to.
We should do an Indiana Jones episode.
We should.
Clearly, obviously, that's in our blood right now.
I just want to like.
That'd be a great reason to watch the 4th one again.
Yeah,
but
they're not Nazis in it.
No,
it's
which
Russians.
I'm more interested in.
Russians?
I felt the whole that's the other reason George Lucas is. That's where we started the story.
Yes,
that is why George Lucas is on the outs.
Because of Indiana Jones.
Indiana
4. Jones
4 compounded on. Basically, I think there's a general vibe that he's just out of touch. The prequels started it. Indiana Jones 4 re-established it, and then he tried to do something else with Red Tails. Who knows what he did on that movie? But
I know we're veering way off the subject, but like. I think
yes,
that we as a podcast,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Mr. Ed McMahon there.
Yes.
Call back to episode 2.
Yes.
We as a podcast, as well as our friend Mike Climo, as well as other podcasts that we've encountered, as
Brian
well
in
as
Calgary.
Brian in Calgary, our listener base. I think that
PJ and Lakin.
That's right. I think that there's a swelling of fans that are reassessing the prequels, right?
Oh yeah,
reassessing the prequels.
And beyond the prequels.
I wanted to bring this up. I didn't think it was going to make it onto the show, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. We talk about Star Wars. We talk about the essence of Star Wars. We talk about what makes Star Wars, what doesn't make Star Wars. We know that we ran through the filters, the Clone Wars. We ran through the filters, Rebels. Is it Star Wars? Is it not Star Wars? Right?
Yeah.
I was doing a little bit of research for possible new episodes of SW Dog, right? Looking into some 80s movies. Flash Gordon, the motion picture debut of Flash Gordon, as well as Disney's darker take on sci-fi, The Black Hole, right? Both of these movies, like, they don't have that Star Wars it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm looking for that Star Wars it, and I'm like, that's not it. No, like, they shoot a laser gun, and I'm like, that's dumb.
That's whack.
That is whack, right? Yeah. That is just whack.
This is 1999, and that is whack.
Stupid.
Yeah.
That looks dumb. That looks like Star Wars. Like, I can still watch that first opening scene where the stormtroopers are invading the blockade runner. And it's like, well, no, that holds up.
It's something about the restraint of it. I feel like Star Wars had.
I'm still trying to scratch that itch in my head of what is it like.
Yeah.
Like, is it the special effects? Is it the music? Is it the restraint? Is it the direction?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but like, God damn it, Lucas, you did it. Right?
Yeah,
you did it, and he did it in the prequels too. Because there's nothing in the prequels. Say what you will about the storylines of the prequels.
Yes.
Right. There's nothing in it is like, well, that's whack. Like that storyline is whack. Or I'm sorry, those effects are whack.
Well, I think there are people that would disagree with us on that, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
I mean, when they shoot a blaster, it's like, well, that they're shooting a blaster. Never do I think, oh, that's fake.
Oh, sure,
right?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
When they ignite a lightsaber, I was like, well, that looks.
And it's not a matter of looking. I don't think the nomenclature is right. I don't think it's about looking fake. It's like somehow it's a different quality. Inauthentic could be a better way to say it. It's
inauthentic, right?
Yeah, like
I never once do.
It never reads as camp.
Right, I never. It camp.
Yeah.
Yes, camp is a good word. I never, as I'm watching the Star Wars movies, do I think I'm never taken out of it as like, oh, they didn't just shoot someone, or they didn't just like I'm watching these cheaper knockoffs, and I'm like, okay. This is where the effect comes in. Like, this is where well,
here's a weird thing.
You can credit a multitude of people for this. It's Ben Burtt, it's the special effects people, Lucasfilm, George Lucas himself. Like, it's a combination of things that really matched up to make it what it is.
I mean, the only science fiction thing I can think of that comes close to Star Wars in terms of since the prequels, that comes close in terms of lastability, where it's like those visuals worked, everything felt right. It's like the Matrix trilogy.
Sure, I mean,
that's actually not aging. I mean, it's aging well, but people aren't talking about it anymore. It's entered its own dark period.
I want to. Maybe this isn't even a topic for on-air discussion, but I was trying to think of an episode that we do where it's like, what's the essence of Star Wars? The Matrix kind of has that essence of believability, even though it's in
world building. Yeah,
world building.
Sure.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy, it has a believability to it.
Have to see
you didn't still see it, right?
Yeah.
But it may be more modern. Maybe it's just technology makes it more believable. But
I don't think so.
But Alien had it.
Oh yeah.
Well,
what? It had that authenticity thing of when you see the character with the baseball hat. Who is that actor? I'm losing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? He's been in everything.
Right.
Fuck.
Right.
Everyone will know who we're talking about. Anyhow, when you see him and he's got his baseball cap and there's the water on him and stuff.
Yeah.
These guys feel like space truckers. These feel like real guys.
Right.
There's something you can, and which is, I think, especially in the original trilogy, something you really connect with. That everything feels lived in and feels like there's a mundane, everyday thing happening. Off the panel, off the screen.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah.
But in terms of
what we're actually talking about, we got off on a weird tangent there.
So we're at a minute 46.
Yes. An hour 46. We've been talking about
a minute 46. Yeah. We took a lot of speed right before the program. But I think we basically got through it all. I mean, there's so much more to the story.
Yeah.
But basically, let's just wrap it up.
Sure. What we were...
This whole book is really set up for a planned 25 novel.
Yeah. Planned 25 novels. Ended up being in reality about 19.
19,
I
that's
think.
right.
We wanted to do this episode in particular because, I read this book back in probably 1999, threw the book out because they killed off a beloved character of mine.
This is another stem of what would become your hatred for Star Wars.
This was definitely
this was your Star Wars hate seed.
Yes, and I'm glad we decided to do this episode because it brought me back into
It connected you with that person you were when you first read the book?
Well, it connected me to the Vietnam War.
Yeah, I just remember when I had those ears on a necklace.
No, it definitely brought me back to something that I probably should have maybe have a little bit of regret. I probably should have powered on with the EU and continued on into Legacy and beyond.
I know sometimes you look back at hanging out in college, drinking, running around, doing whatever, and it's like I could have spent that time reading Star Wars books.
Right. That's exactly it.
But let's cap off the book though before we sign off.
Yeah.
So Chewbacca's dead.
Chewbacca's dead.
Han vehemently blames Anakin.
Yes.
And is a real dick.
Yeah, he's kind of a
The kids run around, do some stuff. The conflict with Yuuzhan Vong.
Yuuzhan Vong.
Which by the way, that name was that Timothy Zahn Nod?
I would guess. Yeah, it's definitely the
it's
spelling
spelled
of his last name with
Yuuzhan.
Yeah,
so Yuuzhan.
Right.
Yuuzhan.
I would guess so.
The man.
I would guess so. I mean,
yeah.
Where else would it have come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not imagination's involved in this. So they continue on. Lando's involved throughout. So Lando sent. So he takes his anger out on Anakin first. Lando had sent them to this mining planet. That's why they were there.
Yes.
Because there was some kind of trouble and they might need some help. And it turned out they needed a lot of fucking help because the moon was coming down.
The moon's coming down.
Moon. And so ultimately they saved something it was 20 or 200,000 people. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
I'm getting mixed up with the entire death count for the entire series because that's ridiculous. But
they have that trillion.
Yeah.
They save a lot of people, and so now after he's chewed out his son feels like shit. He's 15 years old. He's on this warpath. He goes up to Lando. He's like, "Hey, Lando, way to send us over there. Chewie fucking died." Yeah. And Lando's like, "Hey, man, yes, Chewie did die, and we love Chewie, but you saved 20 to 200,000 people.
Right.
So back the fuck off. Yeah. I'm not only a scoundrel, but a hell of an administrator." And it's oh, fair enough.
He does, but Han doesn't even say fair enough.
No,
he's
he
just
doesn't.
Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, Han's just wow, Chewie's still dead.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the narrator on this book.
Yeah.
Did a great job. They had voice people. I feel like, but whoever was doing the voice of Han, they never used the voice of Han except when he yelled. And
really?
because whenever they do a voice of Han when he's talking, it was just narrator. But whenever he yelled, it was doing that Harrison Ford yell.
Nice.
It was really good.
Anyhow,
he's a very distinct yell.
Yeah, sure. And I think the book even covered that. Yeah. I think the book covered off on that pretty well too. Obviously, when you're reading it, either it's your voice or the actor's voice or whoever you're imagining, but they did a good job of really portraying Han.
Yeah, and so he's all fiery and pissed off, and he takes off. And then there's some. This is where I get a little blurry on things.
Because there's a big dogfight at the end.
Yeah, and Luke's doing some shit. And I don't know what Luke's into. This is this weird thing. This is the other problem I had with the EU in general. Is you always have to know what to do with Luke. And there's not a lot of, straight up Luke stories, right. I feel like.
And I feel like as much as...
It's a little OP.
As much as we're a little bit flying blind here because we have not yet read...
The books that led up to it or followed it.
Yeah, we haven't read the 19 books that follow this.
Yeah.
I feel like the just the basic machinations of what the bad guys can and can't do is a little bit blurry still for us. Yes, they are organic based. There seems to be something to do with ice. There's something to do with water. There's something to do with mist. They take over this one planet and becomes a combination of those three things. It's Luke goes into this planet and he's, battling mist turning into ice.
Yeah.
He's trying to get out of it before it, freezes his ship.
And to me,
his ship is one of the alien ships, so it's wouldn't it be, kind of immune to this? Because it's, it's all organic by the same organism.
But at the same time, it's also an enemy the ship itself is the same as the Mist in terms of like they both work the same thing.
Yeah.
So I get that. But to me, this was just like Luke lost in Fantasyland. It's like, there's nothing I can understand here.
Yeah.
There's like nothing concrete that grounded me.
Especially if you're reading this in 1999. I feel like since then you've had like, at least Battlestar Galactica, kind of trying to delve into the world of organic ships.
Sure, and I don't think this is the first like iteration of organic ships and stuff or anything, but like in terms of like the world of science fiction.
Right.
But like, and it wasn't that hung me up. It was just that like, there's nothing going on here that relates either to my own life or the life I understand of Star Wars.
Right.
So it's like, he's just here on this blurry planet in this ill-defined ship.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Yeah.
Struggling.
Struggling to... And managing to escape in the nick of time.
Yeah, and it's just like...
Out of nowhere.
And that's like the worst parts of the EU for me. It's where I'm just like... And here we are with an ill-defined thing that's stopping us from doing the thing. It's defined only by the things it's not. It's like...
You're right.
There's no force on this planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I can only use my force to overcome it.
Yeah, but
how does that work?
Whatever. This is busy work for Luke.
That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
If he's
busy
not,
work for Luke.
If he's not, giving some ill advice to Han's kids, he's off doing some forcey stuff that's not defined.
Bam. Forcey stuff.
Stuff.
That's exactly it. Like, and that's the problem in Star Wars in general. I mean, the Clone Wars runs into this with the Yoda character towards the end. Like, in my opinion.
Oh, sure.
Like,
I think
sometimes the characters that are overpowered, the characters that have too much force stuff, have to just go do abstract forcey things. Yeah.
Forcey things.
Yeah.
I think that's a future SW Dog episode. Forcey stuff.
Which I look forward to our Darth Plagueis episode when you finish that, because I felt like they handled that kind of shit very well. Because it's easy to get lost in.
Yes.
So
yes. I am plowing through that as we speak.
So ultimately, it's a full-on Yusei Vong attack.
Yuzon Vong.
Yes.
Yuzon Vong.
Yuzon Vong.
Yuzon Vong.
Now, a note on Yuzon Vong. I wanted to take a minute, even though we're running long.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute and talk about them. It kind of reminded me, they're like part alien.
Yes.
Part the Skeletor or the skeleton guy from Willow.
Right. They're...
Right?
Yes.
Well, the one guy.
Yeah.
They're not all like that.
No, right. I feel like in the book they're described as being very tattooed
and insect-like.
I don't know if they ever say insect-like. It's weird, like...
Not all of them. Like, the stuff that chews through the ship, insect-like.
Yes.
They actually use the term.
But I think the actual humanoid characters are, like, said to be portrayed as very insect-like. Or, I'm sorry, very tattooed.
Yeah.
And very, maybe even some body mutilation.
And, yes, that's all true. And there's some, like, body kind of armor stuff. So they're kind of like Darth Vader fill-ins, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, even on the cover, you can see it. On the cover of the book, you have a skull-faced figure that has kind of a scarab beetle shape behind his head.
Sure.
And so that's kind of like this exoskeleton, life and death kind of thing. Like where they're completely alien.
And and they seem to have like protrusions coming out of their face and arms and.
Did we already talk about the communication devices, or
we did not talk about
off air?
No, we talked about that off air.
Yeah, like they have these weird communication devices that I kind of left it to the reader to figure out how they work.
Right.
They kind of drill through your hull, right?
Right. Yeah.
And when they're in, it's like a sphere, a little like pulpy, like organic sphere that turns inside out and reveals a head of the person speaking to you. Like, as opposed to doing the, like, hologram things that we know of Star Wars technology.
Sure.
These are, like, an actual head talks to you. And when I read it, I assumed it was, like, someone dead on the battlefield's head has been repurposed to talk to you. But Ron had more of a reading where it was, like, more of a 3D sculpture type thing, like in Man of Steel. Which, I was like, oh, that works, too. Either way, it's weird.
And also seems like a very... science fiction device.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe it was new in 1999, but it's definitely been picked up on since then.
Sure.
I don't know how I feel about the technology of the Yuzhan Vong. I said to you earlier today that it's based on slime technology. Mm-hmm. It's like, it seems like it's very organic, so it's going to be slimy. Like everything you touch, it's just kind of gross and slimy and
it's the way to describe it too, gross, like it rolls over your body.
Yeah. It's I feel like maybe we can't talk fully about it because we're only talking about the first book.
Sure, there's a lot more
maybe it's
underpinnings.
expanded on beyond this.
I'm sure.
I think that a lot of our takes on this are based on a lot of fan art that we've seen online.
Well, and I think a lot of it also is being very specific. I think we can talk more generally about it because I think what the Yuzhan Vong really represents is an antithesis of the dynamic that George Lucas put out.
Sure,
George Lucas has a very, by design or not, it's largely kind of antiseptic. Like, there's not a lot of skin to skin. There's not a lot of physical grappling.
Yeah, right.
There's not a lot of biological kissing. There's not a lot of physical contact.
No, right.
There's not a lot of bodies even.
Yeah.
It's very what's the word? Not corporal, more ethereal, force. Hey, let's just think about each other. Let's not touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Antiseptic.
Yes. It's a little more antiseptic, and the Yuzhan Vong is the exact opposite. It's all their technology is based on very touchy, very feely, very gross things. They're not even shooting lasers really. They're shooting these
shooting lava cannons.
Lava cannons and insect. What do they call them? Something bugs, slam bugs, dumb bugs.
Yeah, something.
They're shooting insects at you and stuff. It's these are the ultimate physicality aliens.
Yeah.
And so they're really and that was a big push. I even remember it back in the day, and since when people talk about this series. What is it called again? The 25-part series, 19-part series.
The New Jedi Order.
New Jedi Order. When people talk about it, they talk about it being refreshing because it's new and different. You have to see something all new. You've never seen the Star Wars before, and this is it. The physicality is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
even though Timothy Zahn's, sorry, right away I'm even though Timothy Zahn's trilogy had those things that suction around you that make anti-force bubbles.
Yeah. Similarity or something.
Yeah, I bet it turns out those things are connected to the Yuzhan Vong. What do you want to bet?
I believe that they're mentioned. Oh, you know what? I'm getting confused. They are mentioned in Darth Plagueis. But yeah, I
bet you.
R.A. Salvatore is definitely mentioned. Referencing Zahn technology in this, so I would say that there's definitely in looking forward to the 19 books that I probably will not read.
You think so? I'm definitely reading at least 2 more.
I'll read a couple more.
Well, because the thing is, I didn't know anything about the Yuzhan Vong, did you?
No.
Other than this book, I've not read anything about them.
Right.
And now, Darth Plagueis does such... The thing that's cool about Darth Plagueis is it really ties into all these totally obscure, random Star Wars books.
Sure.
It's a clear mandate. He was I'm going to make this all work.
Sure.
And I'm really curious to see what he references with Yuzhan Vong. He must.
Sure. Well, I would say this about the EU and this book in general is it's very cohesive.
Oh yeah.
Very cohesive. As much as it's being written off as legends, the EU very much worked well together. You know
what's weird about it too? It worked well with the comics.
Yeah,
it worked across multiple media.
It all worked well.
Yeah, and the continuity was tight.
Not saying that it shouldn't go away, but it's
easier to read with it not being canon.
Yeah.
But it's not worth dismissing. If you like Star Wars, This is going to get you through to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, this is going to get you through Force Awakens. It'll get you through to Episode 8. It'll get you through to Episode 9.
Like, honestly, I'm kind of excited at the fact that I just started a 19-book series where it's like...
Yeah, right. There's plenty to read here. There's, like, so much content. That being said, we talked about this earlier today before we were recording. Is this a good place for a new person to the EU to pick up on? Probably not.
Well, I question it. I don't know. Like, I was talking to you, I was like, well, I don't know. It kind of all reads, right? I mean, like, do you recognize that the Solo kids are, like, the Solo kids? You're like, yeah, you can kind of figure that out.
Yeah, you can kind of figure out that the Solo kids are,
I mean, like,
Luke and Leia's.
When I recognized the name Kip Doran, it wasn't like I knew who he was. It was like, I think I've read him in another EU novel.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't exactly clear.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could. And I honestly, maybe it's not the best, but, like, honestly, if you're listening to this show... You probably are a head above the average Star Wars watcher.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, we're not talking John Q. Public.
Yeah.
I would say, if you're listening to the show, you should probably give it a try.
Jump into it.
Have a good time.
It's a good read. I'm glad that I finished it after all these years of throwing my book away because Chewie dies.
Yeah.
I'm glad I finished it. We did a little impromptu poll on Facebook, and it seems to be... one of the EU books that people seem to like.
People dig it, yeah.
Yeah, so people dig it. So
it's
not all bad.
It's a little easier to swallow when you know that the real Chewie's alive, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
Oh, sorry, one more thing.
Oh, one more thing?
So, like, we're probably going to see something from the EU again, right?
Oh, yeah, bad. I imagine.
I mean, like, within... How long do you think it takes before some... comic book writer or book writer has someone look into some kind of crystal, look directly into the face of the Ashra, and see, like, I see Han Solo and his children, but it's not Kylo Ren, it's someone named Jaina.
I imagine if Dave Filoni has anything to do with it, it'll be sooner than later.
Very soon. Excellent. Well, folks, thanks so much for listening.
We are Delusions of Granular. And
Granular.
we talk about Star Wars.
We don't hate Star Wars.
And we don't hate Star Wars.
Goddamn right.
And we'll talk to you soon.
I spoke about wings. You just flew. I wondered, I guess then I tried. You just knew. I sighed. Then
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett has passed.
Yeah.
I had a good number of years on him. Didn't quite make it to the 87 Club.
No.
But he, hell of a... The thing about Terry Pratchett is, he's a name I know.
Yeah. Very prolific sci-fi fantasy writer.
Very satirical, right?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't read... Here's the thing about it. What makes it weird is I haven't actually read any Terry Pratchett novels.
Well, okay. So
I've owned, like, 5.
His big series is Discworld.
That's right.
Right?
Not to be confused with Ringworld.
Right,
Yeah.
which could be confusing.
Yeah, and
Right.
because Ringworld's badass.
Yeah, so Discworld is basically a kind of a sci-fi fantasy series of novels that basically take place...
On the back of a turtle that's on top of 4 elephants.
The world consists of a plane that rests upon elephants who walk upon a giant turtle.
Yeah.
That's a little bit hard to wrap your mind around.
My mother bought a bunch of these books for me when I was, I must have been like 17, somewhere between 17 and 19. I was in a very unironic phase, or I was in this phase where it was like, this is too silly.
Yes.
Like, as much as I like Monty Python and stuff, it's because I could grasp that irony better.
Right.
Right. But this was too silly.
Sure.
Now I think I could probably enjoy these books a lot more.
Sure.
I would like to kind of make that a thing this year to try and do. Get back and
I agree. I think I would
Discworld
like to
novel.
tackle one at least.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big fan of his cohort.
Douglas Adams.
Douglas Adams.
Yeah.
I feel like those kind of senses of humor are similar.
Yeah, I think I want to tackle one of those.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Maybe we'll do some type of, I don't know what, on him.
Discworld. We'll do
episode.
one
Sure.
of the first books or something.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Terry Pratchett also worked with Neil Gaiman.
Yeah,
right?
Good Omens.
Good Omens.
Yep.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman, famous comic book writer for
book.
Sandman, and famous novelist for American Gods.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, Terry Pratchett, you will be missed. You are definitely a true visionary of the sci-fi fantasy world.
Yeah.
And as SW Dog, we will vow to learn
Honor
more
your
about your
memory.
work.
Yes, we all vow to learn about you.
That's right.
Yes, that's what we do. We wait for you to die, and then we vow.
That's right. If you're not dead, you're not worth it.
Hey, you know
right?
what? Why don't you get a cheeseburger instead of fucking sweating what I'm feeling?
Once this George Lucas guy dies, I'm going to be all in.
Well, actually, that's when I'm going to stop. I'm actually just doing this to make him feel better.
As we all are.
As we all.
All right, folks.
So say we all.
So say we all.